everyone, it's Kim and welcome back to Read It and Eat. Welcome back to Read It and Eat. My name is Kim and I love to talk about everything food related in books, predominantly in the food writing and nonfiction space. I'm here today to talk to you about 5 books all about front of house. Oftentimes, a lot of food writing is going to talk about the back of house and the chef's journey. But the other half of the equation is the front of house. Without the staff, your food would sit in the window and sit there to die. So this list of books about the front of the house was inspired and a spin-off of my most recent review of Will Guidara's book, Unreasonable Hospitality. If you haven't checked out my other video about this book, I'll link it above and down below. Unreasonable Hospitality is all of Will Guidara's experience after running and being at the helm of 11 Park Madison, taking a 2-star struggling brasserie to the #1 restaurant in the world. Now this book I started reading this book because it was one of the most predominant books noted in an episode of The Bear. Season 2 of FX's The Bear came out. There was a whole episode about the character Richie and his evolution to becoming the helm and head of that restaurant's front of house. So I recommend you watch that episode and check out that full review above and below to learn more about Unreasonable Hospitality. This book is all about the philosophy of going above and beyond to create wonderful, meaningful memories and experiences in the food space, and not just blowing the budget with something extravagant and feeling haughty. The connection needs to feel authentic and true to the restaurant and the people who dine there. So after reading that book, I really wanted to think of a list of other books if you were interested in learning about the front of house or about service in general, service and hospitality. So beyond Unreasonable Hospitality, I have 4 more books to tell you about. One of the first nonfiction books I ever read, I was in high school, was this book, Waiter Rant, by the waiter Steve Dublianchia. So this book, I didn't even know it was nonfiction at the time. I was just so enthralled by the stories of what this lifelong waiter had dealt with in his life. Originally, the book did not have, this is a reprint cover. Originally, the author was anonymous. According to the waiter, 80% of customers are nice people just looking for something to eat. The remaining 20%, however, are socially maladjusted psychopaths. Eye-opening, outrageous, and unabashed, replete with the tales of customer stupidity, arrogant misbehavior, and unseen tidbits of human grace in the most unlikely places, Waiter Rant presents the server's unique point of view, revealing surefire secrets to getting good spirit, proper tipping etiquette, and ways to ensure the waiter won't spit on your food. Like I said, this was one of the first nonfiction books I ever read, and it completely opened up, I didn't know this at the time, but it opened up my world to what food writing is. So this has part lessons and learning and etiquette in the service industry. The other part are just some of the absolute crazy stories that this waiter has gone through. It's actually, so the best comparison I have to the book is that if Kitchen Confidential at the time by Tony Bourdain showed you the back of house, Waiter Rant was the expose to the front of house. This book came out in 2008 and is still in reprints today. Waiter Rant and this author have gone on to write other books about etiquette and tipping specifically. And if I could give a final endorsement to this book, if Kitchen Confidential was considered the expose of the back of house, this is the front of house. Now, I know I've used that saying before because other books came after this where the waiter or the service exposes dirty secrets. But as far as I can think back in the many books I've read, this one came first in 2008 and I highly recommend it, and it's a New York Times bestseller. Taking the perspective of the wait staff and front of staff, another book I recommend is Service Included by Phoebe Darmosh, 4-Star Secrets of an Eavesdropping Waiter. So this was also a New York Times Notable Book of the Year, and this is from the waitstaff point of view of a woman, which I also think is important because what women face in the restaurant industry is very different than what men face in the restaurant industry. And while she was waiting for her life to happen, she looked for a job as a waitress. I think a lot of people get into hospitality and service in that way. Maybe you are a struggling actor or actress waiting for your next big break. You're gonna pick up a couple shifts as a waiter. But before long, she was the only female captain in the 4-star New York City restaurant per se during its first year. Service Included is the story of her obsession with food, her love affair with a sommelier, and her amusing, eye-opening, and sometimes shocking experiences in the fascinating, frenetic, and highly competitive world of fine dining. So, I should preface, this book was in the world of fine dining. In Waiter Rant, you're going to go between all different types of restaurants and different statuses of restaurants. Versus Service Included, you're going to stay within the walls of per se. Will Guidara's book, Unreasonable Hospitality, you're staying predominantly within the 11 Park Madison, the Michelin star haute cuisine world. So just some differentiation to also keep in mind. This was also published in 2008. It's weird to think that that was 15 years ago, basically, at this point. So different eras of books as well. So Waiter Rant 2008, Service Included 2008. Will Guidara's book came out in 2023, but it is looking back on a lifelong career in Michelin restaurants, specifically 11 Park Madison. So shifting gears, now 2 books that focus on hospitality as a whole. One is Danny Meyer's book, Setting the Table, The Transforming Power of Hospitality in Business. This book has 10 unique steps or unique tips and tricks and recommendations on how you can have outstanding front of house. Danny Meyer is the CEO of Union Square Hospitality, and he has won multiple James Beard Awards for his restaurateur empire. He is so well known in the space, and it is principles that spell out success in this book. This was one of the first books I read as in nonfiction when I moved to Chicago, and it really set the tone for that year for me. This also came out in 2006. It's in the years of like 2006 to 2010, in my opinion, that you really started to see exposés about the front of house. Which reminds me, what year did Kitchen Confidential come out? I don't remember. I'll put it right here. The other book I wanted to mention is Front of House. This is a Burgess Lee Press book where 100% of our after-tax profits of the book is donated to culinary programs, which is pretty cool. This is a more general look at the front of house. You're not going to stay in one specific restaurant. What's really going on when you go out to dinner? Running a fine restaurant is a heightened form of performance art, akin to conducting a grand orchestra. Jeff Benjamin became hooked on the drama and dazzle as a teenage waiter in the Long Island Country Club and has never looked back. Now a managing partner of Vetri family of restaurants, he's become a lifelong student of great customer service and nuanced gestures of hospitality. So in front of house, Jeff Benjamin is going to give you his point of view and how he moved up through the restaurant ranks. A lot of times you have to keep in mind that these point of views are going to be focused around specific restaurant empires because it's where their knowledge is coming from. I found this book a little on the drier side, but had really important things, especially if you're looking at as a restaurant from a business mindset. So if you want to think about costs, analysis, this is the kind of educational book I recommend you pick up. Now the final book I recommend reading, I have already reviewed on this channel, but had to give a heads up to Your Table is Ready, Tales of a New York City Maitre d' by Michael Cetsi-Azzolina. This came out in 2022. Michael's book is definitely about the punk rock, drugs, booze, and alcohol world of being a waiter in the early 2000s and the 1990s and the 80s. Like it is, you want sex, drugs, rock and roll, kind of like the wild side of like Anthony Bourdain Kitchen Confidential. I also recommend you pick up that book. So in total, 3 books from the point of view of the actual servers: Waiter Rant, Service Included, and Your Table is Ready. And then if you want some more generalized books learning about hospitality at some of the best restaurants in the United States, I recommend you pick up Danny Meyer's book, Front of the House, or Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Let me know in the comments below. First off, were you ever a waiter or a waitress? Because I certainly was. I'd love to hear what's one of your craziest stories or one of your best day stories. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the way down below. I hope you're well. I hope you're reading something great and eating something delicious, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.